Scott Burnside, ESPN.com here on the latest special edition of Hockey Today, the podcast. We talk PK Subban, Shea Weber deal. We talk Taylor Hall and Adam Larson and Steven Stamkos staying in Tampa. You can find it under the Listen tab on your ESPN app.
Legendary Tennessee Lady Vols coach Pat Summitt died early this morning at the age of 64 after battling early onset dementia. Summitt won 1,098 games in Knoxville, the most ever for a Division I coach, men's or women's. She reached 18 Final Fours, won 8 national titles, and touched the lives of so many. In 2012, President Obama presented Summitt with the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian award. Welcome to His and Hers alongside Anita Marks. I am Will Reeve. And Anita, you had the chance to meet Pat Summitt. What kind of impression did she leave on you?
A pretty big one. It was interesting. Back in 2000, 2001, I was invited to go to Knoxville, Tennessee. Tennessee was taking on Notre Dame. Nancy Lieberman and Mark Jones, two very dear friends of mine, invited me to come out and watch their broadcast. And prior to the game, I had an opportunity to spend about 15, 20 minutes talking to Pat. And you just, Will, when you come in contact with people and you've heard how legendary they are, you see all their success, but when you're around them and there's an aura about them and you get to feel their energy and you feel like, I'm around greatness. I'm around somebody who really has put a stamp, her name and her legacy, not just I think on women's sports and women's collegiate basketball, but I think in sports in general. She is the John Wooden of women's basketball, but it goes much beyond that. And if you've been watching any of the platforms on ESPN and hearing the number of people whose lives she's touched, it's really amazing.
Right, and so often these legends don't meet the hype when you meet them, but it sounds, by all accounts, when you met her, that she exceeded the hype that you had already built up in your mind around her. And that speaks to her aura, as you said, and often when we meet our heroes or encounter the greats in person, they leave something to be desired. But Pat Summitt was the rare breed who went above and beyond all of our expectations. Of course, we don't need to mention the greatness she achieved on the court. I think one thing that stood out for me on a second level, beyond all the stats, the 1,098 wins, the 18 national tournament appearances, the 8 national title wins, all of that is great, and she will be celebrated for her achievements on the court. I think what speaks to her more as a person is that in her 38 years as a coach at Tennessee, every single player who completed their eligibility under her graduated. She was a maker of women.
Absolutely. That speaks for itself. But even beyond that, again, when you've been watching, and again, hopefully everybody's been watching the number of platforms here at ESPN. When you hear about how she touched lives, how she made people want to be better at what they did, whether it was basketball, whether it was in marriage, in love, in relationship, in work, whatever the case may be. Another thing I think that I'm walking away with today, and hearing people who've had a lot better relation with her than you and I, is, she wanted you to be a better person. And that's what she brought out of people. And I think, listen, that's the biggest compliment, is when, you want to impress somebody so badly. You have such immense respect for someone that you want to make sure that they're impressed by you. I think that's the biggest compliment. And that's how everybody felt about her.
Yeah, making those around you better is something to be admired, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
so it's certainly a big loss for us all, but we're going to shift gears here a bit. Yesterday, the Knicks' pursuit of Kevin Durant took center stage. Let's take a listen.
At this point, we haven't heard the Knicks have a meeting. How confident are you that the Knicks will get a meeting with Kevin Durant?
I'm with KD now. He's right downstairs. So we've been together. We've been talking. I'm pretty sure whatever decision he makes, he's going to make it. Whether he meet with the Knicks or not, I do consider myself part of the Knicks, so that meeting is already taking place.
I haven't really thought about that part. Obviously they have a good team now with, D Rose and Melo and Porzingis, and so like I said, this is, I'm gonna talk to my team and we'll figure things out. But right now it's kind of hard to say.
So, Will, do the Knicks really think they have a shot getting Kevin Durant? Are you saying we've got a chance?
I don't know. I am a Knicks fan, long-suffering, and I have a few things to say to Melo. Here. All right, man. Melo, you are certainly part of the Knicks, but you do not run the team. There is one player in the NBA who can dictate a team's actions as a pseudo GM, and that's LeBron James. And if there's one other player approaching that status, it's Kevin Durant. So of course he didn't take a meeting with the Knicks. He didn't have to. He's set up meetings with 6 other teams. He's got the Warriors that if he joins them, best team ever, just got better. Spurs, the dynasty continues for another decade. The Thunder, they were so close to winning a title already with the team that they have. If he stays, he cements his status as a legend, as the good guy, as the anti-mercenary, and he guarantees love in that city forever. If he goes to the Clippers, LA lifestyle, playing with Chris Paul, great point guard, that takes them to another level. The Heat, no state income tax, Miami Beach lifestyle, learning the winning culture from Pat Riley. And the Celtics, there's a really good basketball situation. He loves the tradition. He would be beloved there. I left off the Knicks because my man, KD, why would you go there? I'm a Knicks fan.
And this is coming from a Knicks fan.
Yes, like choose your own adventure for KD. If you come to the Knicks, you win a title in New York City, you're a god forever, period, full stop. They would raise your jersey to the rafters as soon as they handed you the championship trophy.
All right, so I put together some pros and cons. You ready? Here are the pros for Kevin Durant going to the Knicks. Number one, he thinks Porzingis is the unicorn, which obviously, listen, you hear a lot of veterans talk about Porzingis. They all want to play with him. He's BFFs with Melo. What a great opportunity to play with your best friend. An easier path to get to the championship is in the East over the West, right? New York, you play at the Garden. That's big. That's great. And also, this would be his team, right? Because if he goes to Golden State, it's Steph's team. It's Steph and Clay's team. It's Stephen Clay and Draymond's team. So this would be his team. Now here's your cons, okay? Can you win now with the Knicks? I don't think you can. Can you get to the Eastern Conference Championship and get past the Cleveland Cavaliers and LeBron James? I don't think you can. Phil Jackson, is he committed to this team? There's so much talk that he might go back to the Lakers. Who knows? There's not a commitment. And you kind of wonder if the ownership of the Knicks and Phil Jackson, if they're on the same page, is there a little dissension there? That doesn't sit well. And let's face it, Melo, he's in his 30s and he's got a bum knee. I mean, how much you've got a Melo for a good 2 to 3 years, if that, if not more. So those are the cons. I don't think he should go to the Knicks.
I agree. I wouldn't go if I were him. I mean, look what you're working with if you show up on the Knicks. You've got perennially injured Derrick Rose. You've got sort of an unknown entity in Porzingis. He could be great, but you just don't know yet. He's not established. You got a player in Carmelo who does all the stuff that Durant does, just worse. And then a bunch of scrubs with a first-year coach who's the team's 5th coach in 6 years. Why bother? Why not go somewhere where you can win now? You're going to be the best player on whatever team you go to. Might as well just win a title right away.
And again, folks, keep in mind, this is coming from a Knicks fan. One thing we know for sure is KD and Melo will be playing together in Rio in just a few weeks. Jason Day, on the other hand, pulled out of the Olympics today, releasing the following statement. The sole reason for my decision, my concerns about the possible transmission of Zika virus and the potential risks that it may present to my wife's future pregnancies and to the future members of our family. I have always placed my family in front of everything else in my life.
I talked to numerous doctors and people that was already over there. I talked to people that actually from Brazil, and then I had to really put in perspective from a basketball standpoint. Is this something that I really want to do? Going back 4 Olympics, having an opportunity to win my 3rd gold medal. So all of those came into play.
For me, it was just about coming here and playing with a lot of great guys. It would have been great to have Kevin and Bron and us go for gold, but it's about the guys that we have here and us coming together as a team and being ready to compete in Rio.
I just wanted to play ball, and I was looking forward to this opportunity to kind of get in the game mode a little earlier than I would normally do it throughout the summer, and so playing against the best players in the world and with my peers, and I'm looking forward to learning a lot.
So we just heard the comment from a lot of the men's basketball team, the USA basketball team. Are you surprised that there's not more of a larger concern about the Zika virus and them heading to Rio?
I don't know what to say, because on one side, of course, there should be a concern because it's a major health scare that is added on top to the myriad problems going on down in Rio right now. But on the other hand, it is an opportunity to represent one's country, which is an honor. And if you're a USA basketball player, you have to weigh what's important to you, and maybe your sense of duty to your country will outweigh the chance that you or someone you love would potentially get infected by Zika or face another sort of problem.
So Zika is not only just transmitted by getting bit by a mosquito, it's also sexually transmitted. Have you ever spent some time in an Olympic village?
I've not. I've heard the stories. I know where you're going with this. I mean, cannot say. I'm no athlete, so I don't.
They have condom machines. You have a ton of athletes with surging testosterone running rampant through their bodies with a lot of free time. And again, I will reiterate, they have condom machines. I think that there needs to be a greater concern. I would have a greater concern. Heck, Paul Gasol, who we know is going to play for Spain, he even said, he said he's going to freeze his sperm. So he's willing to go, he's willing to represent his country, but also, I mean, he has some realistic concerns. On top of that, you've got to worry about the water, not that you swim and play basketball at the same time, but still, and also the security issues. Granted, yes, I mean, how much time will they stay in the village? Probably quite a lot. But man, I think there's so many concerns for these athletes heading over there.
Yeah, I mean, the concerns, the risks certainly outweigh the rewards, which is a crazy thing to say almost, because the reward is a gold medal. But the burden upon the U.S. basketball team specifically is they have to win the gold medal or the trip is a failure. So why expose yourself to that? I mean, they're going to win. That's almost a foregone conclusion, even without Steph, without LeBron, Westbrook, Harden, Kawhi Leonard. None of them will be there.
You're still pretty confident.
I'm still very confident, but if you're a USA basketball player and you know that Rio is dealing with general corruption, they've got political upheaval, the cops don't have enough money to put gas in their cars, Brazil's only testing lab was suspended. There's so much going on down here that why bother when on top of all that you get bit by a mosquito and you could potentially get a bad disease. It just doesn't seem worth it to me, and that is ridiculous to say almost, because the gold medal is the carrot at the end.
I'm just surprised that there's just not more concern, but that's me.
I'm Andy Katz from ESPN, along with my co-host Rick Klein of ABC News. On our latest edition of Capital Games, we're going to look at Brexit and the impact the UK leaving the EU has had on the sports world. Go to the ESPN app and click on the headphone icon to get our podcast.
Kilvi pistää Jonta kolpen, Meska! Välkommen! Här i Nice! Kolpen Sigthorsson med pistämärken sitt!
I think we Icelanders now have a new national holiday. It is today, it is this day. We just can't believe it. And nobody believed we'd beat England. But still we did. And we actually beat them. I mean, come on. They invented football and we won.
I love it.
Woo! Forum Iceland. That means let's go Iceland. I am fully on the bandwagon here because this is a nation of 332,000 people. That's about the size of Anaheim, California, and they just beat the nation that invented soccer, as they like to say, and is now out of Europe in every single way.
I love it. I mean, that's the best line of the day, right? And when he said England invented soccer and we beat them at it, you're right. Get this, 8% of their country, 330,000, traveled to France to see them. If that was to happen in the United States, Will, it would be 30 million people. Their coach, this is a part-time job. He's really a dentist. And on top of that, their goalie, he's actually a film producer. Pretty cool. Team USA was introduced at a basketball camp in Harlem. And as you can imagine, the kids attending lost their minds. Some, well, more than others.
So what was your reaction to seeing the players today?
I saw players.
Hold on, one at a time.
I saw Kevin Durant. Yo, when I saw Klay Thompson, I was like, oh no, and he was killing the DeMar DeRozan and Jimmy Butler. Oh my God, I can't believe this, yo.
What about Melo?
If I see Melo, I'm going to cry. I'm going to give him a hug. Kevin Durant was my favorite player. I can't believe I saw Kevin Durant. He said, what's his favorite player? I said, is. If I see Melo, I'm giving Melo a hug. Yo, if LeBron was here, yo, I would have cried. Because he's my favorite player.
How awesome some of those kids' reactions. I have to ask you, have you ever reacted that way to an athlete, somebody that you met?
I don't know. I can't remember anything like that, but it's a reminder.
Come on, when you were growing up as a kid, Will, there had to be somebody
I'm sure I did, but nothing comes to mind. It's a reminder, though, that these guys are heroes. And by the way, KD, Durant, those dudes are Knicks fans. That's what you'll get if you come to New York.
Oh, now you're selling him.
Yeah, man. All right. James Harden decided to have a little fun with a kid at his basketball camp. Look at him showing off the handles there. And then a little trick shot. Wow, clearly this kid had no idea where the ball went. Harden finishes it off with the slam and then gets plenty of love from his campers there. And if you were this kid, how would you feel about getting schooled by Harden like this in front of all your peers?
You know what? I was thinking about this. If I was this kid, I probably would have grabbed the beard at some point, right? I mean, it's there. It's like in your, like I would just, I mean, he's trying to school me.
Right. I mean, clearly, James Harden is also coaching the defensive drills at this camp.
In his first 5-hit game ever, Chris Bryant of the Cubs became the first player in the modern era to have 3 homers and 2 doubles in the same game. Bryant also became the youngest Cub, see what we did there, Will?
Yes,
to go deep 3 times in a game. Now, teammates were pushing Bryant to do a curtain call on the road, but after the game, Bryant said he didn't want to show anybody up. That's not who he is. Let me ask you, because I know you're a big Bryce Harper fan. Do you? And he's polar opposite, right?
Right.
Do you respect Chris Bryant not wanting to really have a curtain call on the road in Cincinnati?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's totally commendable by Chris Bryant, respecting the unwritten rules of baseball. I do love my bat flips and my sort of make baseball fun again campaign by Bryce Harper, who incidentally grew up with Chris Bryant. But I think Chris Bryant's game speaks for himself. 21 home runs, 57 RBIs, last year's Rookie of the Year. He doesn't need to do a curtain call on the road.
And what about a bat flip?
I mean, bat flips are great, as is volleyball. This rally between USA and Germany's volleyball team goes on for nearly a minute. Seems like it'll never end. Look at this. The U.S. would eventually get the point. And look, volleyball is dope. We should pay more attention to it in non-Olympic years if this is what's going on, because this is insane. This is outrunning my copy here. It just keeps going. You play any volleyball?
It's never ending. I probably could read the 5 books of Game of Thrones before this little back and forth, this little volley came to an end.
We're number 1 in the world, by the way. USA, keep America great. We are the volleyball champs by a bit of a wide margin, so I expect to see more of this, or even more dominance, really, down in Rio.
I dig beach volleyball more so than.
I played some beach volleyball this weekend. I am terrible, but had a great time.
Hey fans, it's LaChina Robinson, your host of ESPNW's Around the Rim, and this week's podcast is dedicated to the life and legacy of Pat Summitt. Go to the ESPN app, download us under the Listen tab as we celebrate the life of a great pioneer.
Kevin Durant.
Rockets, Heat, Celtics, Knicks, Raptors, Hawks, Blazers, Lakers, Rockets, Clippers, Spurs, Warriors.
People could understand if he went to the Wizards, right?
Yeah, because that's home.
But if he goes to Golden State, the perception will be obvious ring chase.
Just blink if he's staying in Oklahoma City. Just blink once. Blink twice if he's going to Boston.
Leave me alone.
Unless he just wants more sunshine and a different lifestyle, there's no reason to leave OKC.
Of course you just add Kevin Durant.
Kevin Durant cannot walk away from this team.
You know how badly Kevin Durant wants a championship.
I
know, but championships. There is more pressure than ever on top 5, top 8 players to win.
You opt back in for one more year and see what Russ is going to do.
If you're Kevin Durant, is there a part of you that thinks maybe it's just not meant to be with me in this franchise?
You will not rest until Kevin Durant leaves this team. Way to stay on brand. You get Kevin Durant, cancel Christmas.
Aren't you going to miss all the Kevin Durant speculation? Chris Broussard. I love the way you pronounce your last name. He joins us now, so come on, dude. Tell us what's going to happen.
Well, I don't know exactly, of course. Only about 3 people on Earth know. I don't know if anybody knows exactly. I'll be honest. I think Kevin Durant's waiting to see when he meets with these teams. July 1st, probably the 2nd, because he's got 6 teams he's going to meet with. And he'll determine it. But from talking to people around this situation, people from different teams that are involved, people that are close to Durant to some degree. I get the feeling Golden State is the closest competitor. It's between Golden State and Oklahoma City. That's not to write everybody else off, because I don't think he'd meet them if he wasn't interested in at least hearing what they have to say. But I do think it's Warriors and Thunder, and that's going to be a battle.
That would be big news. KD to the Warriors seems like a real possibility. And now, what about the champs? Kevin Love was on the Late Show last night. Check it out.
Tell me about this moment right here. This is you and LeBron on the floor right after the end. That is a beautiful picture. No, it's beautiful. It's two men showing emotion for each other. What's this moment like?
Well,
what did it mean for you?
I didn't want to be the one guy that after, we saw the ball go up, there's 3 seconds left up 4, that we knew it was all over. I didn't want to be the guy that was searching for someone to hug. So I tried to find the person that everyone was most likely to hug, and it happened to be Bron. And all the cameras were there. He dropped to his knees. It was a special moment. I mean, it's something that I'll always remember among many things in that game. But that was a warm, cuddly embrace at the end there.
All right, so here's obviously the simple question. Do you guys repeat next year? Go ahead, put them on the felt.
I mean, that's the plan. Yeah, we get everybody back. We feel like we can.
Mm-hmm. That's ballsy.
That is a bold prediction there. Chris, are you convinced that the Cavs are bringing the band back together?
I believe so. And before Game 7, there was a lot of talk that win or lose, they have to trade Kevin Love. But now, they obviously won. And look, the reason I believe they're bringing them back is because the GM, David Griffin, came out yesterday and said, we're bringing everybody back.
Right.
Tyronn Lue, the coach, has said, we're bringing everybody back. And the reasoning is this, because a lot of people look at them and say, they can't rest on their laurels. They need to improve and get better. Golden State, as we know, if they get Kevin Durant, they're going to be even better. Oklahoma City, if they keep Durant, will be right there. San Antonio, you can't write them off. But the Cavaliers' thinking is this, and it makes sense. They're going to be better, too. You now will have a year under Ty Lue. You'll be more used to his system, acclimated to his system. They're going to be more confident because they just won a championship. Kevin Love, if he settles into his third option role, he averaged 16 points, 10 rebounds a game last season. That's great for a third option. Those are the greatest numbers in the league for a guy who is a definitive third option. Okay, the problem is everybody still looks at him like a first or second option like he was in Minnesota. And to some degree, he's thought of himself that way. If he just accepts, I'm the third guy and his 16 and 10 is great. He should make some all-star teams with this team now that they're winners. I think they could get better. And we showed, the question with him was defense. They showed by guarding Golden State in the finals that they can play great defense even with Kevin Love.
That's a very difficult pill to swallow, though. If in your mind you consider yourself a 1 or a 2, but you've got to play the role of a 3 in Cleveland, that's a hard pill to swallow, Chris. I want to go back.
You go to a number 1 and maybe miss the playoffs every year or sneak in here or there. I mean,
but
it
I'm
depends on what you want.
I want to go back to Kevin Durant for a second, because here we are and we're talking about if he goes to the Golden State Warriors. And why do we have a double standard when it comes to LeBron? We're talking about that as if, listen, that's a realistic option, and we'd be okay with it. If the shoe was on the other foot and it was LeBron James, Chris, we would be sitting here, we would be destroying the man, and you could probably throw myself in that equation as well. Okay,
he would be getting demolished. This is the difference. LeBron James came into the league and still is viewed as one of the top 5 players or 10 players of all time. Like, he was the guy when he came into the league and throughout the course of his career has been compared to Michael Jordan. Kevin Durant is an all-time great. Nobody's comparing him to Michael Jordan. Nobody's saying he's going to be a top 5 player of all time. He's one of the greatest scorers ever. He's going to be a Hall of Famer easily, but he's not in the same talk that LeBron James is. That, to me, is the difference. So other players that are great, it's like Charles Barkley versus Michael Jordan. It's like Karl Malone versus Michael Jordan. Both Hall of Famers, both all-time greats, but they're in a different, stratosphere, and that's the same thing with LeBron and KD.
So if KD does go to the Golden State Warriors, do you feel the Cleveland Cavaliers should be favored, regardless of where KD goes? Do you feel the Cleveland Cavaliers should be favored heading into? to this coming
That's
season?
difficult to say because some people would argue the Cavs aren't the best team right now. They won it, and all power to them. They did a great job. I'm from Cleveland. I'm happy for them. But, you could make a strong argument that Golden State is the better team, or Oklahoma City, which should have beaten Golden State, is the better team. So that's hard to say. I think what you'll have is if he goes to Golden State or even if he stays, just like this year, you will have 4 teams. Oklahoma City, if he leaves, will be out of it. But teams that are essentially equal. San Antonio may have been able to beat Cleveland, but they couldn't get by Oklahoma City. I think Cleveland would have beaten Oklahoma City because they're a tough matchup for the Thunder. So a lot of it's based on matchups. But look, out of respect, I would just say, look, Cleveland is the defending champs. Let's respect them. They're going to be better. I think they can win it again.
What happens if Durant decides to go to the East? You're saying that he's most likely to go to the Warriors or stay with the Thunder. But if he goes to the East, are the Cavs still the best team, or is it a toss-up with Durant's team versus LeBron's team?
They're still the best team, but wherever Durant would go would be second best.
But
the
what's
East
the
is
point,
that
then?
weak.
Why go?
Well, because you would be in the same class as Cleveland. But if he went to Boston, now they'd have to add another player, but they would immediately be the second best team in the East. Toronto is the equivalent, with all due respect, to Portland, which was the 5th seed in the West.
Right.
They're not a great team. They're a good team, not a great team. If he went to Atlanta, our Mark Stein reported now the Hawks want to get him and Dwight Howard. If he went there, they would be a legitimate threat to Cleveland. Not saying they beat them, but they would be the second best team. And I think an elite team. Washington, he's not going home.
You haven't said Miami.
If he went there,
said Miami.
Give me the Knicks, man. Give me the Knicks.
Miami, the Knicks.
Miami is going to have – look, unless Hassan Whiteside or Durant or Dwayne Wade is ready to just take millions of dollars less than their market value, they can't get Durant and keep Whiteside. And Whiteside, rightly so, wants to get paid. So I don't see him when he can get $20 million saying, I'll take $10 million so we can get Kevin Durant. So I think and not to mention Dwayne Wade is older, still very good, a great player, but how many years does he have left at the elite level? Chris Bosh, we don't even know if he's going to be on the court next year. So there's so much uncertainty with Miami and what type of situation he would step in. Luol Deng wouldn't be there. Right. So I can't. I'll say this, any team he went to, he could go to Indiana. If it was just about basketball and Paul George, now you got Jeff Teague, they would be a contender with Cleveland.
But what
Washington would be great. John Wall, Bradley Beal, but he's not going home.
What we've heard Kevin Durant say is it's all about winning. If it's all
and he said, and the people that he's going to do life with and be around, which if I'm Oklahoma City, I'm like, us. We've been here exactly. We've done life for 9 years. What do you mean? So that's a red flag.
If it's life and people he wants to be around, heck, him and Carmelo Anthony, they're like brothers. They went to the same high school together.
A lot of guys are like brothers in the NBA.
It's one big brother.
He's very close with Draymond Green. He's very close with Andre Iguodala, and he's got a good relationship and a lot of respect for Steph Curry. So it's like LeBron. Yeah, he's close with Dwayne Wade, but he's buddies with Chris Paul too, and he's buddies with Melo. A lot of these guys all have good relationships with several guys.
What's your heart telling? Give us, before we say goodbye, what if you had to put money on where Kevin Durant's going to go, where's it going to be?
Most people feel like it's a no-brainer to do the 1-year deal in Oklahoma City. And if I were in his shoes with just what I know, I don't know everything he's thinking, I would just do the 1-year deal. It would be over. I'll be like, I'm staying 1 more year. We're going to go for the title. We came close this year. Me and Russ can do it. And then revisit this in 2017. Win or lose. If they won it next year, he'd be free to leave. And if he and Russ both left at the same time, it takes the heat off of you. Now it's on both of you. It's split. It's shared. But what I've been told, and this could change, but what I've been told is that he wants this decision to be long-term. Like if he goes, and whether he stays in Oklahoma or goes to Golden State or Boston or whatever, he will do the 1-year deal. But his thinking will be, I'm here for the duration. He doesn't want to jump to a third team in potentially 2 years or 3 years.
Then he becomes a mercenary.
Exactly. So that being the case, I know what I could have long-term in Golden State, right? I know what I could have long-term, in San Antonio with Kawhi Leonard and LaMarcus Aldridge. I'm not sure yet what I could have long-term in Oklahoma because I don't know about Russ. Now, they're close. maybe they've talked about it. You know, it certainly would be easy for them to talk about it. What are you going to do, Russ, next year? You know, but, you know, so I think that if he is thinking long term, to me, that hurts Oklahoma City's chances. You still might want to make them the favorite. I mean, he's been there. He's loyal. I think it's going to be very difficult. Knowing the type of guy he is, he's a good guy. It's going to be hard for him to hurt those fans and leave them. But I also know that Golden State is very, very serious and a very much of a threat to Oklahoma.
Chris, thank you so much.
Legendary football coach Buddy Ryan died this morning at age 82. He was considered a defensive genius, the architect of the 4-6 defense that led the Bears to a Super Bowl 20 win. He's the father of Rex and Rob Ryan, Bills coaches, and Buddy also spent 7 seasons as a head coach with the Eagles and Cardinals. And we now welcome in Herm Edwards, our coach. How will you remember Buddy Ryan?
Well, he was an innovator. When you think about the 46 defense, and at the time that he was coaching, even going back to his Jet days, defensive line coach, and then obviously with Minnesota, he understood that the complexity of offenses, and he really built the defense that could stymie an offense. In other words, you had the ability all of a sudden defensively to make checks like offensive quarterbacks do. You see in today's game, where quarterback gets on the line, he looks at the defense and he can change the coverage or change the play. Well, it was the same thing defensively. This is why he needed smart players, he needed tough players, and he was able to really create havoc. He made sure that you weren't going to run the football. He had a way of presenting 8 guys in the box. But then the unique part of it was this, is the fact that he was going to bring pressure. He wanted to hit the quarterback. He wanted to stop you from running the football, because in the era that he coached, actually, the run game was pronounced. It was a running league back in those days. And he wanted to stop you from running, and then he wanted to hit the quarterback. And he did it a lot of different ways by bringing pressure. And you see it in today's game. I mean, it's kind of spilt over. There's some signs of what he had done in the past, and people are using that today. You talk about his 2 sons, but Jeff Fisher comes off that tree. He was an assistant coach for him at Philadelphia, actually. That's when Jeff started coaching in Philadelphia. He was a secondary coach. He became a coordinator, and obviously we know his longevity. Ron Rivera played for him when he was in Chicago in '85 Bears. And so you know about that team. Leslie Frazier was on that football team. So a lot of players came off that tree. Wade Phillips was
Mike
a part.
Singletary.
Yeah, Mike. So there was a bunch of guys. So I think his legacy will be remembered as an innovator, a guy that really had a defense. When you think about Buddy Ryan, the first thing you think about is defense. Wherever he was. It didn't matter. You never talked about offense. When his teams came to town, you talked about the defense, right? And that's kind of how they played it.
But also, I mean, don't you find it interesting? Like, now you've got his 2 sons, Rex and Rob. Rob now part of the Buffalo Bills organization and helping Rex with that defense. But when you look at this family, I mean, all 3 men, immense success as defensive coordinators, but struggled as head coaches.
Well, it's tough in this sense, is that when you're the head coach, sometimes you get caught on one side of the ball if you're a defensive guy or an offensive guy, and that can happen because you put so much emphasis on defense, and you want to have that rapport with your players that all of a sudden you lose track of the offense. And so I think right now in Buffalo, when you think about the Ryan brothers, well, now with Rob coming there, Rex has the ability now to coach the whole team. He doesn't have to worry about just staying on the defensive side of it. Because when you're a Ryan and you're a coach, people expect your defense to play well. I mean, you take pride in that. The players expect to play well, right? So with that being said, you get caught on one side of the ball sometimes too often. So I think Rob will alleviate some of that and help Rex.
Absolutely. And you said the first thing you think about with him is defense.
Yeah.
What might be the second thing?
Well, he's boastful. And when you got off the bus, if you played on his defense, you went into the stadium and said, we're going to win the game. I mean, they were boastful. And look, they did the Super Bowl shuffle before they were in the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, they recorded that early.
Another thing we want to talk to you about, if the NFL wants to discuss Al Jazeera's PED report with James Harrison, as I said a little bit earlier, he's a bad man. Mm-hmm. He's got a few ground rules.
Okay, here we go.
Monday night, he posted on Instagram saying that he'd meet with the NFL only if it takes place, A, at his house, B, at the time of his choosing, and if, and only if, Commissioner Goodell is present. Herm, What do you think about the way he's handling it?
Well, I mean, he's made a statement. Now, we have to see if that statement holds true. He's kind of drawn the line in the sand and says, look, if you want to interview him, this is how it's going to work out. But I think eventually there's going to have to be a discussion. We know that's coming. The findings of it, I'm not involved in that. The league will handle that matter. I do know this: if you put a substance in your body that is not one that is obviously passed by the league, you got problems. Whether right, wrong, or different, we can argue the issue, but that's kind of where this thing's headed.
Now, he definitely seems to be outspoken on every issue that comes his way.
And that's why you love him.
Yeah.
Because he's not a guy that mixes words. He believes in certain things, and he's willing to stand up for that. And you appreciate a guy like that. And I think that's why people appreciate, what he stands for. I mean, he's a guy, whether you agree with him, he will take a stand. He will say something. And that's okay.
Well, what he's argumenting about is that Al Jazeera, the report, is just not very substantial. There's not a lot of credit to it. So he's saying, well, anybody can go out there and say anything about me.
No doubt.
And I'm a pedophile, and then all of a sudden the NFL is going to investigate me. He said, where does this begin? Where does this end?
Well,
where's the credibility?
Peyton Manning has some issues with these folks too, right?
Yep.
Is that a true statement?
Right. Yes, it is.
No,
and so, we don't know. And I think the problem is when you're a celebrity and people throw something out there and it gets read and it gets talked about, and in today's world, everything gets talked about, because if it doesn't get by us, social media will handle it, and it gets out there, all of a sudden you got to answer the question. And basically the question is going to be asked, were you involved or were you not involved? And you have to come up with an honest answer.
Right, and the NFL does not need a positive test in order to investigate, which is an important distinction to make. It's not like they're investigating something that has happened. They're just speculating based on this.
Well, yeah, and I think that the NFL, also has an obligation, because when this becomes a headline, that's never good. It's never good for the National Football League. And if you're a fan, the one thing fans are asking, well, what are they going to do about it? Are they going to just push it aside? Because the problem is our sport, right? I mean, when you say something like this about players, fan base people want to know, what's the NFL going to do? They're just going to sit there and say nothing? So there has to be some formal kind of a conversation this is where this thing's headed.
It won't happen at his house, I can almost guarantee you.
That's probably pretty good.
And I doubt Roger Goodell is going to make a visit there.
That's probably a pretty good statement, too.
This week.
All right, and it is now time to get these jokes off in the Doing Too Much Countdown. We start with Bulls head coach Fred Hoiberg.
I'm really excited about the players that we're bringing in this trade. You look at Brook Lopez, a guy that I've always thought very, very highly of, even going back to the draft when I was working in the front office in Minnesota.
Anita, should we give Coach a pass for being confused by the Lopez twins?
No, you don't give a. I'm curious. Do you think it was like a Freudian slip? Because he does he really want Brook?
I would.
I mean, really, does he? I think it was a Freudian slip. I think he really, deep down, I think he wants Brook over Robin.
They are almost indistinguishable, but still, not a good look for him. All right, 2, and the Mets. Well, they signed Jose Reyes after coming off a 52-game domestic violence suspension for allegedly grabbing his wife by the throat and shoving her last Halloween. Anita, do you think the Mets will regret this decision?
I know Mets fans are pretty upset about this. At least there's a portion of them are. This is what I think really the onus is going to be on Reyes. The pressure for him to win and help the Mets turn their season around, because if he does not, I think things are going to get a little difficult. You're willing to overlook things that go on off the diamond if a player is, of course, producing, at least fans.
See, now,
that's what they do, Will.
Now, I don't know. I reject the notion that anything approaching domestic violence can then be turned into an obstacle the athlete can overcome. I think it's an immediate disqualifier. I think the Mets might not regret it if he produces on a baseball level, but from a PR level, not the best look. I think the Mets should have stayed away. But what can you do? They're the Mets. They do what they do. And Sammy DiDonato. Look at this guy. He stole the show and became an internet sensation during the College World Series game with this epic stare down with an ESPN cameraman. This dude is smooth. Look at him. Just getting in there.
I'm impressed.
Oh, he almost cracked right there.
Did you used to do this when you were a kid? Did you stare downs?
Yeah, but I didn't.
Were you good at it?
No, because my eyes would start hurting, and I could never do that. Look at that, dude. Oh, he must have met so many little girls in the hot dog line and the concession stand. He was definitely feeling himself.
I was just never really good.
Look at it. He looks at his mom for approval, and then
I was
keeps
really
going.
never good at this game.
No, me neither. All right, that's all we got. How'd we do?
I think we did all right.
Yeah? That was fun. We'll be back tomorrow.
His and hers.
Let us know.
I think we did all right.
What we can improve. I gotta get some lunch. It's a long day. Take care.